Hello, hello, hello. Greetings for the day, all my lovelies. A warm welcome to this class. In this class, we are going to do one short revision for nationalism in India. And please excuse my bad throat. I've been suffering from cough and cold since the last couple of days. So even if I may cough, the Josh is never going to be low in this class. Hello, hello, hello. Firstly, please reply to me in the chat. Am I audible? Am I visible clearly? I'm live with all of you in the chats. So you all may reply to me, please. All right. So let's straight away head into the chapter. But before that, I'll tell you two important things that will help you. First, this is the second chapter of history. I have already conducted one short revision of the rise of nationalism in Europe, the first chapter of history on this same channel. So make sure you go and watch it if you haven't already. Even if you have attended it live, it will be a good revision for you. So keep watching it regularly. It will benefit you, especially last moment during exam preparation. Secondly, I have already conducted a couple of classes on this channel itself related to your board exam. So I've already explained the paper pattern and how to score full in social science. So make sure you watch all the videos, and that is absolutely free of cost to enhance your overall exam preparation. Make sure you do that and give a subscribe to this channel, and make sure you press the bell icon so that when we keep coming with such amazing videos to benefit all of you, you are able to get the best out of it. Okay. Hello, 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 Pranjay, Aditya, Tanu, Kanika, that I guess is Richa. Then we have Rahul, we have Vansh. Kya baat hai, kya baat hai, kya baat hai. All of you, a warm welcome into this class. This is the mind map. This you can see is the mind map of this chapter. And let us straight dive into this class, and we will continue from the First World War, the time period around the First World War. What is the First World War? What is Khilafat? I'll tell you everything. And what is non-cooperation. Now, the First World War, as we know, started in 1914 and it ended in 1918. But it is not like that on a particular date the war starts and there is no effect of that before the war, and there is no effect after the date the war ends. No, it is not like that. It has a lot of pre and post war effects. So the war effects already started much before 1914. Right now, Britain was a part of the First World War. It was one of the Allied powers. You all know that. So Britain wanted people, see, to fight a war, to win a war, you need resources, you need money, you need a lot of resources, right? Iron, steel, coal, you need fuel, wood for ships, and you need people. So Indian people were forcibly made a part of the British Army, and that definitely made a lot of Indians angry, right? Indian resources were being used by Britain for the First World War. That is what was having a bad effect on India. I hope you understand this. And everywhere, people were equally troubled by the British rule in India. If you are having the slightest of doubt, let me clear that right in the beginning of this chapter. Okay, if you think that Britain actually benefited India in some ways at least, then no. Let me tell you that Dr. S. Jaishankar, our external affairs minister, yes, one of the top ministers, one of the top cabinet ministers of our country as of now, he said, and this is from Utsa Patnaik, a very renowned economist. She did a research wherein it was tried to calculate, there was an estimate that was made in terms of how much was the value in terms of goods, in terms of money, in terms of taxes that Britain took away from India in the approximately 200 years that it forcibly ruled India. And the amount was a shocking $45 trillion worth in today's wealth. Now, $45 trillion. Can you imagine? So approximately you have to multiply that by 82 into 45, and you know how much is 1 trillion? you have to add 14 zeros after 1. So 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. This much is the wealth that Britain took away from India, that Britain looted from India. As simple as that. So, right in the beginning of this chapter, let us get this mindset straight that Britain never came to India to benefit India. Now, some people will say, oh, they made railways. Oh, they made it for their benefit. They did not make it for Indians to travel at that time. Please understand this. They made it so that their goods could travel quickly. They made railways so that their people could travel quickly. Okay. So I hope this is very, very clear. I would request all of you to please keep replying to me in the chats. I am live with all of you. I am reading all your chats. Okay. All right. So heading straight into the chapter. So are you understanding the kind of atmosphere, the kind of situation that was there in India financially? Britain had already drained India of a lot of resources. I hope you understand, right? And on top of that, there was a crop failure in 1980, 1999, just after the war. There was a big shortage of food. Moreover, the way we had, I should say, COVID today in the 1918, 1919, 1920 era, there was influenza, which was a disease, and it spread badly in India. Okay, so amidst all these troubles, Indians thought that, okay, now our troubles will get over. But no, Britain always wanted more and more tax. Britain wanted to rob India more and more. Britain would always find out ways. I will tell you several ways in this class itself. Okay, it is all mentioned in your chapter. Okay, so I hope this is clear. I hope this is clear. See, income tax, a new tax was introduced. The existing tax was doubled. Customs duties was a type of tax. It was doubled, and Britain was trying to loot India more and more in spite of the bad condition of India. Okay, so that is how the situation in India was during the First World War. Is this clear, everybody? And at that time, M.K. Gandhi gave us the idea of Satyagraha. Now, Britain was extremely cruel. Britain had zero humanity. Okay, and when M.K. Gandhi gave this idea of Satyagraha, Britain, to tackle that, introduced this new law, the Rowlatt Act. See, Britain made so many cruel laws. Okay, I will mention about these in this chapter itself, except for the third one, because that is there in the 5th chapter. Okay, so Britain made several cruel laws. See, दादागिरी करता था Britain कानून बना के. ध्यान से सुनना. The Rowlatt Act was one such law. Now, this law only and only benefited the Britishers in India. Now, please tell me, everybody, was the British rule in India very cruel or very kind? Obviously, very cruel. Very cruel is also an understatement. So, the British rule was very cruel in India. Now, obviously, because of this, Indians were troubled. Indians wanted to get rid of this, and Indians will keep protesting. Some protests were silent, some protests were non-violent, and some protests were very violent. And the British rule, to tackle this, had made this law that British rule in India can put any Indian in jail for 2 years without making them appear in front of the court. Now, as per rule, even today, once police arrests somebody, within 24 hours, they have to make that person appear in front of the court. So the police must have evidence, the police must have witnesses to prove that they have arrested this person and this person has made so and so crimes. This person has committed so and so crimes. But at that time, all the good Indians, all the Indians who wanted to fight against the British rule, obviously protested. So Britishers would never want that. So Britishers made this law, and through this law, it could put anybody in jail for 2 years without any court procedures. Did you understand what this law was? Everybody? Did you all understand what this law was? This law was basically Dadagiri. Okay. Similar was a law called Indian Forest Act. Now, obviously, see, all the forests of India belong to India, right? But the British rule came in India, and they made this law, the Indian Forest Act, 1865, under which all the forests will now be controlled by Britain. Oh my God! This is how their cruel rule was. And their mentality was only one. think that loot India and build Britain. Loot India, build Britain. Okay? I hope this is very, very clear. Now, obviously, this was a very cruel rule, and protests against this started on the 6th of April. To tackle all these protests, now obviously British rule would never want any such protests. So on the 10th of April, the Britishers fired at peacefully protesting Indians. And this obviously, see, when you come to know that your brothers and sisters, your citizens, your fellow citizens have been killed for what? For no violent protest, for no fault of theirs, for only asking for freedom from the British rule. Because this is our country. Hey, Britishers, who are you to rule us? We will manage our country. For only asking this, they were all killed. You and I, if we were alive at that time, we would be very angry. And that is exactly, obviously, the people's reaction was. Right? So, this made all the people very angry. Now, again, to tackle this, so the Britishers fired, Indians retaliated. Again, the Britishers imposed martial law. Now, what is martial law? It is like curfew, it is like lockdown. Okay, so martial law was imposed, and where was this place? This was in Amritsar. On the 10th of April, martial law was imposed, which means what? Military will come and control everything. Curfew, complete curfew, lockdown. I hope that is absolutely clear. And on the 13th of April, it is the festival of Baisakhi, which is celebrated widely and with a lot of enthusiasm in the north. Now, Amritsar being a town at that time, being an urban area, okay, a lot of people from villages had come. And on the 10th of April, this curfew, this martial law was imposed in Amritsar. Now, we are talking about the year 1919. At that time, people did not have internet. There was no social media, right? So many people who had traveled from the villages nearby to Amritsar did not know about such martial law, did not know about this curfew. So they had all gathered for this festival, the Mela, the fair. And some had gathered to protest against the Rule Act. And General Dyer, he blocked all the exit points of this Jallianwala Bagh, which is a big area or a garden kind of an area. He blocked all the exit points and he kept firing till the bullets were over. This is how cruel the British rule was. Kept firing till all the bullets were over. And this is what we call as the Jallianwala Bagh massacre. Did you understand, everybody, till here? Super awesome. Now, I want to give you some information which is not there in the books. Okay, now see, he is a politician. Who? Michael O. Dwyer. He was a politician, or he was an important minister at that time of Punjab. He gave instructions to General Dyer, and General Dyer took control. Now, he was a soldier. Okay. Now, at that time, Sardar Udham Singh Ji, that you can see here, Sardar Udham Singh Ji was a teenager. He was a very young boy, and he had rescued so many injured people to the hospital. In the Jallianwala Bagh, it is estimated that about 1200 to 1300 people were killed and several others were injured. And Sardar Udham Singh Ji had so much of anger because of this incident, because of this massacre, that this massacre that happened in 1919, he took revenge of that by killing Michael O. Dwyer. And there is a movie made on this, Sardar Udham. After studies, whenever you have time, please watch that. Now, unfortunately, this incident should be mentioned in your NCERT so that you know who is the final boss. Okay, everybody? Is this clear? This is just some extra knowledge. I'm sure you like it. Okay, and oh my God, Sardar Udham Singh Ji was you can say that he was inspired from Bhagat Singh Ji. So I hope you've understood till here. This is what happened in 1919, 13th April, Jallianwala Bagh massacre. Okay, these are some of the cruel laws made by the British rule in India, colonial rule. And that brings me to the next part, which is the Khilafat movement. Now see, all Indians were troubled, including Hindus, Muslims, all the Indians, right? But the Muslims were having one more protest. What was that protest? That was the protest related to Khilafat issue. What is the Khilafat issue? Let me tell you. Now, if you talk about the Ottoman Empire, you know the Ottoman Empire or Ottoman Turkey was defeated in the First World War. Now, the king of Ottoman Empire, okay, had two roles. The king of Ottoman Empire was one person, but two roles. See, you all are my students, but you all play a different role for your parents. For your parents, you are a child. Am I right? So similarly, this person had two roles. Which two roles? One role was the obviously that of the king, and the second role was he was the spiritual head. He was also the Khalif. Okay. Now, in simple words, who's the Khalif? Khalif was the spiritual head of Muslims. Okay, everybody. Now, please tell me what happens to a defeated king? A defeated king is insulted, is disrespected, right? Everyone. And the Muslims did not want anything like that to happen to him, because along with being a king, he was also their religious, their spiritual leader, their spiritual head. And that is the reason why the Muslims had raised the Khilafat issue. That is what the Khilafat movement was, to make sure that the Khalif, their Khalif, was never disrespected. Is that clear, all of you? Yes. Now, here there was a thought by Indian leaders that the Muslims want to raise the Khilafat issue. The Indians anyway want the other people apart from the Muslims who have already raised the Swaraj issue. So let us mix this and start a non-cooperation movement, because everywhere there were Indians helping the British rule. See, the Britishers did not bring the British rule in India did not bring people from Britain. The police officers were Indian. The people working in the courts were Indians. The people working in the railways were Indians. The people working in the shipyards, the dockyards were Indians. And Indians also had no choice but to work, because if not there, where will they work? Everybody has to survive. Everybody has to earn money, right? Everybody. So the Indians also had no choice. So that is the reason why this non-cooperation movement was thought of, that if all Indians quit working in British controlled institutions, because at that time the police was controlled by the British, railways, post, ships, everything was controlled by the Britishers, right? So if Indians stop working for them, if Indians quit their jobs, if Indian students stop going to those universities started by the British rule in India, so British rule could not survive in India, right, everybody? That is what the simple thought was. And that is what this non-cooperation movement is about. I hope it is absolutely logically clear to all of you. Yes, super. And now I can see so many people live, but very less thumbs ups. So thumbs ups देने में कंजूसी बिल्कुल ना करे. Okay? चलो. So let us understand who all participated in the non-cooperation movement. Non-cooperation movement in Hindi is called Sahyog Andolan. So let us try to understand who all participated in the non-cooperation movement, and one by one I will start discussing. Okay, there was a movement in towns. Now, in the towns, which is the urban areas, there were people, different types of people who participated. These people were mostly people who did jobs. See, in the towns you will find very less farmers. So there were thousands of students, teachers, headmasters, that is principals, lawyers. All these people quit jobs because students were studying in British controlled institutions. Option नहीं था ना, forcibly the British rule had controlled all schools, colleges in India, right? The teachers had no option but to work there. Similarly, the lawyers had no option but to work for the courts controlled by the Britishers. And similarly, the business owners in the urban areas, they boycotted foreign goods. They started buying and selling goods made in India. Right, everybody? So that's what they did. And people could not continue this for long. Why? Because for how long will students sit idle? There were no replacement institutions. Are you understanding? The students have stopped studying, they are sitting at home. The teachers have stopped working, they are sitting at home. The lawyers have stopped working, they are sitting at home. So what will they do? The students cannot stop learning for a long time. People cannot stop earning for a long time. So this movement could not continue. Why? Because people wanted to earn. Second, it could not continue because khadi cloth, Indian made cloth, handmade cloth was expensive and foreign cloth was cheap. So poor people could not actually afford that expensive cloth, khadi cloth made in India. Secondly, students, teachers, lawyers could not afford to sit at home for a long time. So this movement was not successful. It could not be continued for a time long enough to hit the British rule badly, so that they would leave the India, so that they would leave the country, right? So is this movement in towns clear? How the movement in towns develop? Yes. Now from the towns, let us go to the villages. What is countryside? Countryside means villages. How did this movement unfold in the villages? Let us understand. So here we are talking about two different places where the movement had a big impact. Okay. So the first is we are going to UP, and there is a place called Awadh or Audh, okay, which is known as Ayodhya, which is also known as Ayodhya. Absolutely. So there the peasants were troubled. Why? Why were the peasants troubled? Because the rent was very high. See, most of the peasants did not have a land of their own. So the peasants were paying high rent. And who were they paying that rent to? The landlords, right? And they had to pay high taxes. So high rent to the landlords and high taxes to the. Now, please tell me, if a peasant is very poor. Now, let us imagine, keep ourselves in the place of the peasants. If you are very poor, if we are very poor, if you have difficulty in survival, will you actually be able to pay high rent and high taxes? Please tell me. If you are very poor, just try to imagine yourself in their place. No. But these landlords and the British rule was very cruel. They demanded high rent, they demanded high taxes. That is the reason why the people or the peasants of Audh or Awadh in Uttar Pradesh, they revolted. Are you understanding? And there were groups formed called Audh Kisan Sabha and the Nai and Dhobi. Nai means what? The barbers. And Dhobi means what? All the washermen. They also went on strike. that was a part of this peasant movement. Right, everybody? Did you understand how the peasants in Audh UP attacked? And see, there is a limit to tolerate. एक हद होती है ना, आप किसी को परेशान करते रहो करते रहो करते रहो, फिर थोड़े टाइम बाद that person will attack. And that is exactly what the peasants did. The merchants, the business owners were attacked. The bazaars were looted. Is that clear, all of you? Absolutely right, Aman. So that now let us from UP, let us travel. So are you understanding the pain, the trouble of the common people, the poor people? Please understand, right? Now from Uttar Pradesh, let us try to understand the situation of the tribals. So here the peasants were troubled because of high taxes, and here the tribals were troubled because of the Indian Forest Act. Now see, the Britishers wanted to take away the wood for their navy. Please understand this. And I'm not saying this. This is there in chapter in class 9. Forest society and colonialism. There is everything is mentioned in detail in class 9. There is a chapter. Okay. So are you understanding this, all of you? Now, I want to ask you a question. If somebody comes to your house, removes you from your house and tells you that, hey, henceforth to enter this house, you need permission and you need to pay a tax to enter this house. How will you feel? If this is done to you, how will you feel? You will feel very bad. You will feel angry. You will say, how dare you remove me from my own house? That is exactly how the tribals felt when the Britishers forcibly took control of our Indian forests under this stupid, cruel law, Indian Forest Act. And under this law, they said that, oh, all the forests will now be controlled by the Britishers. All the Indian forests will now be controlled by the Britishers. So these tribals, for whom the forest is home, they live in the jungles, they live in the forests, and they have been living there since generations. And to remove them from the forests is like removing them from their home, removing them from their traditional way of living, taking away their basic rights. Correct? And that is why the tribals revolted. And the leader of the tribals of Gudem Hills was Alluri Sitaram Raju. Here, the leader of the peasants was Baba Ramchandra. Okay? I'll just write down the name. Led by Baba Ramchandra. Okay? And here the leader's name I've already mentioned, Alluri Sitaram Raju. And that is the reason why the tribals fought in a very hidden manner. Okay? So they would wait for these Britishers to come and suddenly they would attack. This tactic is called guerrilla tactic or guerrilla tactics. Okay? This is called guerrilla warfare. So I hope that is also clear. So this is how the tribals revolted, because of removing them from their forests, which is their homes. And you understood why the peasants revolted. You also understood why the people in the towns revolted, okay, and how they protested. Okay, now from Andhra Pradesh, let's go straight to Assam and try to understand the condition of the plantation workers. Now let us imagine, by again keeping ourselves in their place. Now let us say you are a plantation worker. Here in Assam there were tea plantations mainly, right? So here there is a worker, and the worker is not allowed to go anywhere. Even if the worker wants to go back to their village, go back to their home. The way today, if there is an employee and the employee gets a Diwali holidays, and the employee can get a leave if applied well in advance. But here the workers were purposely, in a way, kept inside the plantations, and the forced British rule would never allow them to go back to their villages. Under again this stupid law and this cruel law, Inland Emigration Act. So before leaving, the plantation workers had to take permission, and you know that they would rarely get permission, they would never get permission. So for the plantation workers, freedom was to be able to move out of the plantations freely and to come back again freely, right? That is what freedom meant for them. Am I right, all of you? So all the plantation workers, they left when the non-cooperation movement was announced. They left, very motivated to fight against the British rule. They left, but unfortunately, they never reached their homes, their destinations. You know why? Because all the railway workers, all the ship workers were on strike. So at the nearby railway station or at the nearby seaport, all the plantation workers were stuck, and then they were caught by the British rule and they were brutally beaten up. They were in a very cruel manner. Brutally means in a very cruel manner. So that is what happened. So did you understand how different people participated in the movement? Did you understand till here how there was rebellion in the countryside? I'm just putting a tick mark in all the points that I explained in detail. Yes, everybody, is that clear, all of you? Super awesome. And this slide is also very logically clear. So let us go ahead. Now see, people had different kinds of troubles, and for different kinds of people, freedom meant different. So for the plantation workers, freedom meant going out of the plantations and coming back whenever they feel like, and not feeling trapped. But for the tribals, freedom meant very different. For them, it meant freely being able to live in the forests like before. And for the peasants, freedom meant no high taxes, no high rents. Correct, everybody? Right, everybody? Right? So, freedom meant different for different people. The term Swaraj was interpreted, thought of differently by different people. Okay? But the final act that stopped this movement was the Chauri Chaura incident, where a peaceful demonstration in a bazaar turned into a very violent clash with the police. Okay, you want to see a photo of the Chauri Chaura violence? See, this is a real photo of Chauri Chaura, which is a town in Gorakhpur, Uttar Pradesh. And this is how people had come on the roads, and you can see that people are burning a police vehicle. You can see that police jeep. Right, everybody? Now, Poonam Tahani in the chats has asked why the plantation workers were not allowed to go back. Arey, bache, very easy answer for that. Very simple, common sense kind of an answer for that. The British rule did not want low production, right, of tea. These workers were, that is why, kept trapped in the plantations, so that the Britishers can cruelly make them work like machines and grow more and more tea and make sure that there is more and more production of the product. That is the reason why, because at that time there were no machines to do the work. So now my question for all of you was that this non-cooperation movement was called off due to violence. Okay, because in Assam there was violence, in Andhra Pradesh there was violence, in Uttar Pradesh there was violence, in towns also, in some places the foreign cloth was burnt. Some kind of violence was there, but due to violence it was called off. But my question to all of you is, I'll come back to that. Okay, now younger leaders like Subhash Chandra Bose, they felt that we will never get independence by asking for it and from non-violence. Are you understanding this? If you really think that we got independence by holding a board that, hey, Britishers quit India, then please think again. Let me ask you, let me put you in the situation at that time. Suppose somebody is very cruel, like the Britishers. They had zero kindness, they had zero humanity. They had come to India only for one and one reason: loot. I'm sure you all are with me on that. And this is the kind of cruel British rule. Compare it to a cruel person, and that person comes and takes control of your house. Do you really think you will hold a board where it is written Ghar Chodo Andolan, and you and all your family members will sit there quietly in a very non-violent protest? You really think that person will leave your house and go away? Please think again if you really think that way. Because in your textbook, there is only one line mentioned about Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. But his contribution, his great contribution for actually giving us independence is not mentioned. Clement Attlee, who was the then Prime Minister of UK in the 1950s, when he was asked by an Indian that what was the impact of Gandhi on the fact that the British quit India. So he had said that the impact of Satyagraha and Gandhi's movements was minimal. We left India because we feared Netaji Bose, Subhash Chandra Bose. That is what he had said. And if you don't know, you should actually find out what all he did, how he met Hitler, how he formed, sorry, not he did not form, but how he took over, took control, took the leadership of the Indian National Army, Azad Hind Fauj, and there was also a Rani Jhansi regiment, okay, made of females, one of a kind for that time. So you should actually find out about all this, and that is the reason why, if you actually look at my first slide, you will see that these people have not got the real credit for their contribution to India's independence. Okay, let's continue our story. So, are you clear till here? So, the non-cooperation movement was called off after about 1 year, and it was called off in 1922. A few years passed by, and now we're in the late 1920s. Now, again, there are two situations that have actually started to stir some conflict, some protest. So the first reason was the Great Economic Depression that hit the world in 1929. It hit the USA first, and it hit the entire world. So the first reason was that the crop prices fell. So a farmer would get very less because of that, right? Because of the economic downfall. Second reason is India wanted to make a constitution of its own, but Britain had sent 7 people. This group was called the Simon Commission, and it was under the leadership of John Simon. And they had come to India to advise India about what changes to make in the Indian constitution. And you know how we greeted them, right? Simon, go back, Simon. So these two reasons, they actually again started a protest. They started this, how do I call it? They started giving enthusiasm to the people to protest again. Because in the last few years, there was nothing big, substantial. Of course, everybody was troubled because of the British rule. But you needed trigger points. I hope you understand. So, on the 31st of January 1930, M.K. Gandhi wrote a letter to Viceroy Irwin, who was controlling India at that point in time. M.K. Gandhi had written certain demands in this letter. But you really think by writing letters, by protesting peacefully, they will give us what we want, independence? Do you really think so? Then please think again. So Irwin obviously was not ready to agree to even one demand. So MK Gandhi started this salt march. Now, why salt? I want to ask, why salt? From where to where, right? From Sabarmati to Dandi. Now, why salt? Because salt was eaten by rich and the poor, obviously. Now you will say, "Ha, sir, we know salt was eaten by rich and poor." But at that time, see, as I told you, the Britishers looted India, and their loot mentality is seen from this cruel act. One more cruel act. We saw the cruel act of 1999, the Rowlatt Act. We just now discussed about the Indian Forest Act. They wanted to loot India wherever possible, and wherever they could not loot, there also they looted us. For example, salt. A basic food commodity like salt. It is an essential, right? All Indians eat salt, poor or rich. And the Britishers knew this. So in India, no Indian could make or sell salt. That was this British Salt Act. Can you imagine how cruel this was? And if any Indian made or sold salt, that person would be punished. So basically, only the British rule in India will make and sell salt, and that too will impose a high salt tax. And that is the reason why salt was chosen as something that will bind everybody together. Okay, everybody? So that is the reason why this famous salt march was there. And Then there was this violation of Salt Act, and that marked the beginning of the civil disobedience movement. So 6th April 1930, the civil disobedience movement began. And as you all know now, the starting point was Sabarmati and the ending point was Dandi, which is the coastal town. So there MK Gandhi, he broke the Salt Act, and that is how the civil disobedience movement started. Now, a lot of students ask me, sir, what is the civil disobedience movement about? Now, civil disobedience is nothing but non-cooperation movement plus break all colonial laws. We will still quit jobs in British institutions, and along with that, we will not even follow their laws. And this spread, this movement spread. So the tribals began going back to their forests, right? The people started violating Salt Act, and all such cruel laws people started violating. And there was more and more protest. The Britishers will not like that. The Britishers always have used only one way to tackle any problem that they had, and that is cruelty. Kill people, lathi charge, put them in jail. That is the only way they will tackle, because they do not want anybody protesting. That is a threat to their British rule in India, right? So Abdul Ghaffar Khan was arrested in April 1930. After about a month, Gandhi was arrested, and more than 1 lakh people were arrested. And to free them from the jail, Gandhi and Irwin entered into a pact. They entered into an agreement. And Irwin said that, okay, I will free these people from the jail, and you have to attend the Round Table Conference. Now, what is the Round Table Conference? The Round Table Conference is a discussion for India's independence. Do you really think independence discussion करके मिलेगी इंडिया को? You really think from such cruel rulers, you really think that discussion will give freedom to India? Then please think again. Okay? So MK Gandhi went to London, stayed there for about a good 3 to 4 months. I wonder what meeting, what conference goes on for 3 to 4 months. So Gandhi returned to India, and he relaunched the civil disobedience movement again in 1932. But by 1934, now it had lost its momentum. It had lost its speed or impact. Okay, because you keep starting a movement, people are enthusiastic about it. Then suddenly one fine day you said, oh, movement band karo. Then again you say movement start karo. So people will not be energetic. People will not be enthusiastic. People will say that please keep the movement going. People will say let there be cruelty, because the Britishers don't understand any other language. As they say in Hindi, लातों के भूत बातों से नहीं मानते. Am I right? लातों के भूत बातों से नहीं मानते, as they say. And that is exactly what the Britishers were all about. So people said that if they understand the language of only violence, let us give them a taste of their own medicine. And that is how the civil disobedience movement continued. So how participants for the movement. Now you all know about how these people participated in the non-cooperation movement, right? You remember these different people participated. I mean, of course, all the Indians everywhere participate, but this is mentioned in the book highlighting this, okay? And now, similarly, let us understand how and who participated in the civil disobedience movement. So this is in 1921, right? Now, let us understand in the 1930s who all participated and how they contributed. And here we are talking about the 1930s, the civil disobedience movement. Are you all with me? Poonam says, sir, I don't like this chapter. Oh, I agree with that, Poonam. But there are so many more shocking truths which I cannot tell you in this class because I represent Unacademy. And those truths are unfortunately hidden from your textbooks. Anyway, let us understand. Now see, what the rich peasants want, the poor peasants want will go against each other. समझ में आ रहा है? The poor peasants are paying rent to the rich peasants, and the poor people want that rent to be reduced. They are paying high rent, but the rich peasants will not want less rent. Am I right? So if you see, the demands of the poor peasants and the rich peasants will go against each other. And similarly, the demands of the industrialists and the workers will also go against each other. The factory owners, industrialists are the right, everybody? And women also participated. So I'm giving you all some details here. Can you see I've highlighted this who all participated? Can you all see that? Yes? So please understand that these rich peasants, their demands and the poor peasants' demand will go against each other. The demands of the industrialists and the industrial workers will go against each other. And women did participate, but for a long time, Congress did not want women to participate because MK Gandhi's thoughts. I'll just tell you, okay? I'm not saying this. This is written in your textbook. MK Gandhi always believed that women should look after the kitchen and the home and the children. Beyond this, women have no real thing to do. That is the thought of somebody we call Mahatma. So we need to think a lot of things again and again. We need to think logically. So did you understand how different participants participated in the movement? Is this clear till here, everybody? Yes, everyone? Super awesome. So different types of people participated, and Congress somehow was connected more with the rich peasants. Congress ignored the demands of the poor peasants. Congress ignored somehow the demands of the workers because, see, every political party needs funding, common sense. So the rich peasants will be the one funding the party activities. The industrialists will be the one funding the party activities because the poor peasants and the workers would barely manage their survival. So they would not contribute anything. So this is a real image of the Jats of Uttar Pradesh. These are rich peasants and these are the partidars of Gujarat. You know, even today they have some movements, they have protests like these. They turn up in huge numbers and so on. Okay. But there were some limits of the civil disobedience movement. The Dalits felt very ignored. The Muslims felt ignored. How? What? Let us understand. Now see, for the Dalits, who was causing them all the trouble? For the Dalits, the upper caste Indians were causing more trouble. Am I right? For the Dalits, the British rule is the secondary problem. Even if the Britishers leave India, the upper caste Indians will be there. There is high level of discrimination because Dalits were considered untouchables. If you have watched the movie Lagan, you will know what I'm talking about. How this Kachra, this character, was not made to participate and nobody would touch him. And when Amir Khan, this character, who untouched him, everybody was shocked. If you watched the movie Lagan, you will understand what I'm talking about. So MK Gandhi organized a lot of satyagrahas to give them their rights, but the discrimination in the society remained. Where the upper caste Indians are drinking water from those wells, the roads, the schools, colleges, where the upper caste Indians are going, no Dalits were allowed even to look there. So for the Dalits, everything was different. Is that clear, all of you? Is that clear, all of you? Right? So Dr. Ambedkar fought for the Dalits because he himself was a Dalit, but a very educated one. And he felt bad for his people. And he formed the Depressed Classes Association. Today, we know this as the Scheduled Castes, right? At that time, it was known as the Depressed Classes, right? And he had some demands, but Dr. Ambedkar's demands and Gandhi's demands were opposite to each other. And they clashed, and Gandhi went on a fast unto death, and then Ambedkar did not want to see him die. So Dr. Ambedkar ji and Gandhi, they entered into an agreement, a Pune Pact, whereby the Dalits will be given reservations, and that is how they agreed to that situation. Okay, and the second reason was the Muslims felt ignored. So Muhammad Ali Jinnah wanted separate electorates for Muslims, or he would be happy even with reservations. But M.R. Jaikar, who was of the Hindu Mahasabha, this group, okay, this Hindu Mahasabha was a group, and M.R. Jaikar was a leader of that group. He strongly opposed the demands of Muhammad Ali Jinnah, and then that led to the Muslims feeling alienated. So these were two groups that did not feel like participating in the civil disobedience movement in the 1930s. Did you understand the whole connection? See, please understand this chapter like a story. And you know that these were the groups that participated actively in the movement, right? And these were the two groups that felt alienated, that were the limits of the civil disobedience movement. But whatever it was, no matter how much differences there was, how much diversity there was, but everybody was troubled equally due to the British rule, due to the forced British rule in India. And people tried to motivate everybody, people tried to bring together all the people, okay, and some have contributed to this. Now see, at that time, history, fiction, stories, if I tell you stories about the great Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj and his son Chhatrapati Sambhaji Maharaj, you will feel so enthusiastic, so proud, and so energetic to tackle any foreign force trying to bring down India. So that is how people were, united through history, through stories, through songs. Now, if I sing this song, I have a bad throat, I'll still try, okay? Now, if I sing, जहां डाल डाल पर सोने की चिड़िया करती है बसेरा, वो भारत देश है मेरा, वो भारत देश है मेरा. सोने की चिड़िया, India has been called always. So, this song will motivate all of us, whether we are from any religion, no matter we are from religion A, B, C, D, you all will feel that, we are a part of India. Is that clear, all of you? So that is exactly what was used at that time. Different symbols were used, and a few things mentioned in the chapter that strengthened the unity. First is Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay. It's a Bengali name, so I'm trying to pronounce it the way Bengalis would do, or you can even say Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay or Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay wrote Vande Mataram. Vande Mataram Sujala Sufala Malaya Shitalam Tasya Shamalam Mataram Vande Mataram. Even Lata Mangeshkar ji has her version of this song. Do listen to it whenever you get time after your studies. When he wrote this song, it united India, all the people of India, right? No matter a person is living in the north, south, east, or west, they all felt that, we are a part of this mother country. Correct? And Abanindranath Tagore, or Abanindranath Tagore, he painted this in the early 1900s. This image of Bharat Mata. Clear, everybody? This is the image of Bharat Mata. So now people could actually see this and feel that, this is our India, this is Bharat Mata. right? And that brought unity. See, what is the sense of collective belonging here? Collective belonging simply means unity. Is that clear, all of you? So please remember these two points that I've highlighted in white. It will help you in MCQ type answers. Is that clear, all of you? Is that absolutely logically clear to all of you? So people who were nationalists, patriotic people, they started recording folk tales, they started recording poetries, folk songs, different stories called legends, and then there was a different flag also that started emerging. Okay, so there was this flag. This is one of the earliest flags, okay, of India. I'll show. Acha, anybody wants to see something that is not mentioned in your textbook? Anybody wants to see? So this flag was in which year, do you know? And then after this flag, today the Tiranga that we have, the tricolor, how it evolved. Do you want to know? It is not there in your textbook. Let me give you some additional information. This is how the tree was. So this flag that you see was back in the year 1906. And from there, 1907, then 1917, then after that 1921, then 1931, and then today we have this 1947. Is that clear, all of you? So basically, no matter where a person was, whether a person was in the north, whether a person was in the south, in the east, or in the west, whether a person was a poor person, whether a person was a peasant, whether a person was a tribal, whether a person was a worker, industrialist, rich peasant, everybody was equally troubled because of the British rule. And in the first half of the 20th century, so we are talking about the 1950s, first half of the 1900s, right? Various groups and classes of Indians came together for the struggle of independence. Now, what was emerging was one nation with many voices wanting freedom from the colonial rule. Is that clear, all of you? Is that clear, all of you? Yes? And now I want to ask all of you to do one very important thing, but before that, okay? Let me tell you all that the one short revision of this entire chapter is completed. This is the last topic that we just completed. Did you understand everything? Of course, this is a one shot revision, so I cannot cover everything line to line, word for word in detail that I have done in my batch classes on Unacademy's app and website. Okay, that of course I have done. But before I tell you all will do one thing with me. But before I ask you to do that, and before I end the class, let me quickly tell who I am, okay, to all the new learners. And I hope in social science, from a thinking person, you've gone to become this very nice, devilish, in a nice way, obviously, strong person. And you can thank me in the chats if you've really benefited from this class. I am your Unacademy Plus educator, Hardik Kheradia. Of course, you know that I teach social science. I possess a master's degree in commerce and a bachelor's degree in management studies. I have a total experience of more than 15 years. And of those 15 years, more than 2 years have been with Unacademy. And I'm so glad and gratified that I have taught across the country. Right now, I am teaching with Unacademy. I'm teaching across India. You all are in different places in the country right now. I am here in Mumbai conducting this class. And even before joining Unacademy offline, when I used to work, I have conducted classes by personally visiting these several cities. And I'm so glad and gratified that I have been blessed with immense love from everywhere, exactly the way you all have showered me with so much of affection here at Unacademy. If you are new to my class, make sure you download the Unacademy app. And thank you for 12 million watch minutes. Our Unacademy family is now of 26,000 people. And thank you for giving me more than 2,000 hats. Yep. And last but not the least, if you really benefited from my class, and if you want to tell me thank you, the best way to tell me thank you is by using my code HK26. You can use this code for a flat 10% discount. You can also take extra discount using credits. How will you get credits? Go download the Unacademy app, watch my free classes there. You will get credits, and with those credits, you can get extra discount above this 10%. And you can use my code anywhere on Unacademy. Unacademy teaches all these categories: UPSC, IIT, JEE, NEET, NDA, and there's this long list as you can see. You can use my code anywhere on Unacademy, and make sure you've noted my code HK26 so that you don't forget at the time of taking a subscription. And I want all of you to do this with me. We cannot say nothing and end this class. We must say Jai Hind, and we must dedicate this class to such people who have actually who are actually the real heroes behind giving us the independence. So everybody in the chats, please, Jai Hind. I want to see everybody type in the chats. Even if you're watching a recording of this class, make sure you leave a comment with Jai Hind. Make sure you do that. Kya baat hai. Thank you so much. I love you all. Lots of love always. And I will be bringing more such classes. So make sure you subscribe to this channel and hit the bell icon. And make sure you share the link with all your friends. Lots of love always. Take care. Thank you. Bye.